Thought I'd help you walk through this answer, even though you've got the answers worked out in the back. Sometimes it helps to hear it walk through. So this is about median income for males. They want us to make. What do they want us to make? They want us to make a frequency distribution, a relative frequency distribution, and a cumulative frequency distribution using 7 classes. So they're telling us how many to make. So the first thing I did is I see all this data and it's all jumbled up. I sorted it from smallest to largest, and I did that on that spreadsheet that I shared with you. If you need some help learning how to use a spreadsheet, feel free to give me a yell. So I had to, on the actual spreadsheet, I have this in one long column. And so what I did here, just so I could fit it on the screen, is broke it up into groups. But if you notice, I've got this data listed in ascending order, and I'm seeing my smallest piece of data is the 22,529. My largest piece of data is the 66,760. So they told us 7 classes. So the first process is we got to find the range, and the way we find the range of a set of data, as you've already seen, is you take the max minus the min. So I'm going to take 22,529 away from 66,760, and that's the range. How much spread is in that set of data? So I took the maximum value and I subtracted the minimum value and got that difference, and that's the range. That's how wide apart the smallest piece of data is from the largest piece of data. Then they told us 7 classes, so I took that range and divided by 7 and got that. And then of course, as they recommend in the book, we should round up for one thing, just to keep the arithmetic easy. So that rounded up to that number. And now I've got to build my frequency table. So what I did, and you'll see it's already filled in. So let's talk through this. So I started with my lowest value, my minimum value. And then I know I want to make these be cells, these classes be that wide. So I added this number, the 6319, to the 22,529 and got that. Then I added it again until I had 7 classes built. And then because we don't want to have a piece of data to be able to fall into the 2 different classes, what I did is I subtracted 1 from that value and I came up with that. And then I added that same class width. Same class width coming down this way. Now, some people want to subtract these 2 values to figure out the class width. The trouble with that is they're not remembering to think about, we're going to count this first one. So it's almost like counting, I don't know if you've ever done fence post problems, where you're going to count how many fence posts you need, and you think, well, I've got 10 feet, a 10-foot stretch, I need 10 minus 1 is 9 fence posts, but you got to remember, you got to count the first one also. That's what's going on here. So I recommend, if you're looking to find class width, subtract these values here, and you should see that they're all the same. Okay, so I've got my classes built up, my bins built up, as some other textbooks call them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sort the data into these bins. So I look at this class and I see how many of these data values fall into this class, and I'm only seeing the 2259, and because the next value is 37,000, which is above that. So there's 1. So then I look at the next one, and of course that doesn't catch any of them, so we get a 0 entry. Then for the next one, we supposedly have 8. So let's see, I'm going to do a cutoff of 41,484. 41,484. There's a 41,803, right? Oh, it's got to stop at 85. 414, 41464, 41485. There we go. So I'm going to erase that. So I'm counting on this cell. I'm counting. Hopefully there's 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that checks. Okay, then supposedly there's 24 in the next set. Now I'll be honest with you, there's a formula you can use in your spreadsheet that'll do this. There's also a lot of applets out there that'll do this for us, so I won't go into how I use that spreadsheet to do that, but if you're interested, I can certainly talk about it in the discussion forums. But so what we did is, we sorted all this data into the different classes, and we've got a frequency distribution. Now, they asked us to do, the next part of this was to come up with a relative frequency distribution. So if we add up all these numbers, we find out there's 52 numbers total. And if you look at this sorted list that I made, I've got 4 rows of 10, and then a row of 12, so it's 52 cells, 52 pieces of data. So in order to get the relative frequency, and I'll label this RF just because I don't want to have to write it all out, the way I get that relative frequency for that bin, it's 1 divided by 52, and you can write it as a percentage, you can leave it as a decimal. If you're trying to make my open math happy, you got to pay attention to how they're asking, but either one works, percentages or just leave it as a decimal, proportions we call them. So just in case, I'm hoping I don't even need to say this, but I will. The way you make that a decimal is you take 1 divided by 52, right? And the next one would be 0. And then the next one I do 8 divided by 52, right? Now that's a way to type it into a calculator. And 24 divided by 52, right? And so on and so forth. And I won't list those answers because you've already got the answers in the back of the book for this. So that's the relative frequency, or relative frequency. Next we'll do a cumulative frequency. Now to get a cumulative frequency, all you're going to do is you're going to add them up. So I'll label this CF for cumulative frequency. And my first cumulative frequency is 1 because there's only 1 in that class. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take whatever's in this cell and add it to whatever I have in this cell. Well, 1 plus 0 is still 1. And then I'm going to do 1 plus 8 is 9. And 9 plus 24 is 33, if I'm doing my arithmetic right. And so on and so forth. So it's this cell plus the new ones, and the next one will give me my next cumulative frequency. And when you're all done, this should be 52 because there's 52 pieces of data. Okay, so hopefully this will last. Now, on My Open Math, that's one question that prompted this video. There's a question that said this. So this is my version of that problem on My Open Math. I think it's number 7. And so they're asking me, well, there's a lot of things here. They're telling me to find how many. They're telling me how many of these pieces of data fell between 60 and 65. So you could just go down through and look at it like this. Well, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we don't want to include 65 because, and if you think back to some algebra classes, when you're talking about these interval notations, a bracket means it includes, a parenthesis means it doesn't include. It's an open parenthesis, if we call it that. So I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I also sorted this data, and I just want to double check this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So the answer I got was 5. Now, some things we know this is about 5, so my class width is about 5. They don't really ask us for everything else. So you see, this is kind of a nice problem because it asks you really understand what's going on with these frequency distributions, at least a piece of it. So hope this helps you answer this question, and hope it helps you be able to build your own frequency tables, because it's something I'm going to ask you to do on your exam in a couple weeks.